So, as you can see, this is the review. The review and the exam will be very similar. Different questions, but similar types. It is multiple choice, but again, you explaining yourself and showing your steps is what matters. So make sure you do that. If you choose the right answer, but don't show me anything or show me something that makes no sense, I probably won't give you very many points. Anyway, so use the graph to evaluate. If the limit does not exist, type D and E. So just explain. If the limit is infinite, type, put infinity or negative infinity on your paper. Okay. Now, the limit as it approaches -1, that's right here. So, as we approach from the left and the right, the y value is going to what is this value?
I think it's 2.
One's up here.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So it would be 1/2.
Yeah, because going by quarters, right?
Yeah, I got it.
So it'll be 1/2. So just explain on paper, right? Then number 1, well, limit of f of x as x approaches -1 is equal to 1/2 because the limit from the left is equal to the limit on the right. So, and symbolically, they would just say the limit. This is the proper way to write it right here. So since the limit of f as x approaches -1 is equal to, from the right, is equal to the limit of f of x as x approaches -1 from the, left and right, which is equal to 1/2 then the limit in general is equal to 1/2. So this is the actual explanation, okay? That makes sense?
Yes, I'm just writing it.
All right. Number 2. I'm sure they give us a graph. I'll put the page back in a moment. As you can see, as the limit approaches 0 from the left goes to -2 and the right goes to 2. Since the limits are not equal, you would say it does not exist for that reason, right? Number 2, since the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 from the left is equal to -2, and the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 from the right is equal to 2, then the limit does not exist. In more shorthand, since another way to write it, since the limit of f is not equal to the limit of f on the right, then the limit of f approaching 0 does not exist. So this is the more official way, but both are fine. And if you want to put it in plain English and just explain yourself well, then you'll be good. Okay. Any questions on 1 and 2? You see how there's not really much to solve here, right? All right, give me one moment. Let's see, which one should we do next? Okay. All right, so check this guy out. Here, all they want you to do, there's not much to say here. They want to know the limit on the left and the right. That's all they ask for. They don't ask about anything else. So you would just say, well, the limit from the left is equal to -2, right? It's approaching this value. As we go from the left, the y value goes to -2. To go from the right, y value is going to -7, it looks like.
Yeah, it's -7.
So there's nothing to, here you don't have to say much, just based on the graph, the y values are going to that specific value. So you could just simply say as the x values approach negative, was it -1, right?
Yes, I guess.
Okay. We approach -1 from the left, the y values go to, I forgot what it was. Go to -2, and from the right, just to shorten this up, the y values go to -7. You don't have to say much for this kind of question. This one I would forgive you, just having a short explanation. All right, next one, 4. As we approach, so F is this graph. As we approach 0 from the right, 0 is right here. So as we get closer and closer, it shoots off downward. So it has to be negative infinity, right?
Yeah.
So just explain that, you'll be good.
It only asks for the positive side, right? From the right, right?
Yeah, only the positive.
Okay.
Number 5. Find all the points that are discontinuous. Determine with explain. Okay.
What explanation should we give for number 4?
Before,
Yeah.
just put it in your own words. As your
Okay.
function approaches 0 from the right, the function goes to negative infinity. You can also talk about asymptotes if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me. Let's skip this guy for now. This one requires actual solving. So let's do this guy. Finally, some work to do. To find the limit algebraically, if you can. So what is the first thing you would try to do?
For what question is it? The above or the?
This one.
Okay.
So what would you do here? Yeah, you should just try putting 2, see what happens, right? If I take the limit, that means I plug it in. No more limit notation. That would be 12, 13. Did I do that right?
Yes.
Interesting.
I think 2 times 2 is 4.
Yeah, I was like, something's wrong here. I couldn't figure it out. Thank you. Like, it wasn't matching up with the answer. Now we're good. So far, not too bad, right? All right. Number 7. Find the limit algebraically.
Final answer for that word was 3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Both depending on the question, right? Some will just explain what you're doing, basically. Or why the limit is whatever you find.
if we put -4 in the denominator, that will make it 0. Is that a problem or it's good to go?
Yeah, it's a problem. Can't do it.
Okay.
Right after the exam, there's a section to upload a PDF. So just scan your work within 30 minutes, and then I'm going to grade your work. Okay. I'm not going to be grading your answer selections, just your actual work.
Professor, can you make your whiteboard a little bigger? Because I can't see from the. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so number 7, we can't take the limit because we get division by 0. So try factoring first. The top part, how does the top factor? Right? Yeah.
+4 +5, I guess.
So these are gone, right? This would be a removable type, so the limit as x approaches -4 of x plus 5 would equal, oops, would equal -4 plus 5, which is 1. Yeah, exactly. So once you plug it in, don't write the limit notation, but you're gonna have to write it every single time until you decide to plug it in. So this tells me you've taken the limit. Yeah, so the limit would be equal to 1. So just, that's fine. The more steps, the better. All right. Number 8. Find the limit algebraically if it exists. Okay. That seems fine to me. The limit as x approaches 0 of 5 sine x minus 1. Okay. So what would you do here? Well, we would have to first separate. If you wanted to factor the 5 out, you'd have to factor from both, or you'd have to separate these into 2 different limits and then factor out the 5 from just that one part. Technically, there is a limit property that says the limit of f of x times g of x is equal to the limit, well, let's say plus. You can separate them into 2 parts. So you could separate them and then pull out the 5 if you really wanted to. Sometimes it helps to use these properties. But here, yeah, and at least you don't really need to, right? If you take the limit, you would get 5 sine 0 minus 1. Sine of 0 is 0, so you get 0 minus 1, which is minus 1, right? So you could use this if you wanted to, but in this case, it's not necessary. I don't think the L'Hopital will be on this test.
Did we put 5 sine 0 instead of 5 sine 0?
I'm sorry.
Where did the 5 sine went?
Oh, sine of 0 is equal to 0. So 0 times 5 is 0.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, it's from the unit circle, right?
Yeah.
Any questions so far? Number 9, I would just graph it. Oh, sorry, someone had a question. Number 9, just graph and explain the answer. That's it. Yes, right after the exam or right before, you'll see an assignment that says upload your work. So upload it within 30 minutes of finishing the exam.
I saw the exam due to change to October 2nd.
Yeah, that's the latest. I mean, I prefer you take it next week, but if you need more time, it's going to remain open. So you can take it anytime within starting today till October 2nd. I do not recommend waiting till October.
Oh,
That's just too long because by that point we'll be getting close to test 2.
yeah, I had a request for 2.2.
You have a question?
Can you extend that to a later date, please?
Yeah, after we finish, you can go over stuff.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so number 9 is just graph it and explain yourself. You can also use other techniques if you want. I don't really tell you which technique to use, so you can use any. You have what's it called? Algebraic techniques. You could just plug in numbers really close to 4 from the right side, or you can graph it and explain why the limit is 1. Okay. Number 10 requires the conjugate. Do you remember?
Yes.
We can't plug it in, so we have to use the conjugate. The limit of this guy. Okay. So here again, I don't think I tell you, on the review at least. Oh yeah, it says algebraically. So we have to use algebraic techniques. And that's going to be the conjugate. So multiply top and bottom. By the conjugate of that radical part. So the same deal. Plus, but the plus version. Okay, so now this top part is going to multiply like the difference of squares. And hopefully something useful happens. So that'll be 1 plus x squared minus 1 squared over x times 1 plus x plus 1. So you get one plus x minus 1. You see how the x's are going to cancel? These are gone. So now you have the limit as x approaches 0 of 1 over square root 1 plus x plus 1. Take the limit and you have 1 over square root 2 plus 1. Any questions on any of these steps? Let me double check myself here. Oh, limit was 0. I'm sorry, x are going to 0, not 1. Be half. Yes, they're friction pens, so they erase with heat. They're great if you're gonna wipe them down right after.
Square root of
Mhm.
1 is 1. I didn't understand the last part.
Yeah, so right here you take the limit, right?
Yeah.
You plug in 0. 1 plus 0 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
Does that make sense?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I ran out of space, so I couldn't show any more steps. But yeah, if I like these notebooks because you can wash them away or erase them. And if you scan them, you can create PDFs and send them to yourself, which is what I post. But these are the little pins you can buy. It's called
I
friction.
actually ordered those because they're very helpful,
Yeah, they're really good. My only complaint was I one time I was writing engineering notes. I wrote like a whole spiral of complex notes, and then I left them in the car, and I forgot that they're heat based, and then we live in Texas, and they erased most of my stuff. I'm like, God damn it!
Oh.
But that's why now I use this one instead. I don't use a basic spiral anymore. I just, as soon as I'm done with something, I scan it and put it in the cloud. Nice, that's pretty cool. You'll have to show me. Let's see the Yeah, that's why I use the special paper. Okay. So that's all they want you to do. So if you see square root plus something or minus something, you should think, oh, conjugate. Okay. Over here, you can use any technique you want because I didn't say anything. So you can plug in numbers. Remember that first technique you did? You got really close. You plug in numbers with your calculator, closer and closer to whatever they're talking about from both sides. So you could explain that and show the numbers and explain why it doesn't exist. Or you can graph it and explain why the limit does not go to the same place. Or maybe there's an asymptote and it shoots off to infinity or something.
Would that be enough to just explain why the limit doesn't exist instead of graphing it?
Um,
No.
how would you explain it?
Yeah. I mean, if you just explain why the limit does not exist, is that enough for the perfect question answer for the
Well,
exam?
yeah, you have to explain why it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. And we don't have to like draw the graph in these stuff.
No, just give me a good argument and
Okay.
use a certain either a certain technique or explain why it doesn't exist with some
Good.
details.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is the same type of deal. So we'll move on to this guy. So here I give you the formula. Remember we talked about this. If they match and it's going to 0, the limit will be 1, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what number that is. So that was 10, excuse me, 11, 12, 13. So make sure you read carefully what is how they want you to find the limit. Okay. If I don't say it, then do whatever you want. Just make sure it's a good argument. Okay. So we need a 5 down here. Multiply by 5, right? You can pull this 5 out. Don't have to deal with it. Pull it out here. And now it matches. So this part will go to 1, the limit. 1 times 5 is 5. Nothing too crazy there, right? Does it make sense?
How did we get 5x in the bottom?
I introduced 5 like this on top and bottom. So 5 times x is right there. This 5
Oh,
I moved to the outside.
got it. Thank you.
I skipped a minor step, but if it's weird, let me know.
Okay. So the sine of 5x over 5x is equal to 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then multiply by 5 equals 5. Okay, got it.
Yes. All right. The last two I'm not gonna go over, but they will be extra credit if you want to work on this topic. But you don't have to. But extra points if you do. Got any questions on what we talked about? That's pretty much it. I recommend you practice and study and take the test whenever you can. Sooner the better, because we're going to move on to other stuff pretty soon.